Welcome back to Liquid Lunch. A little Andrew Cole there for you.
That's really mellow and delightful, almost a little too mellow, and I have to say you smell very strongly of cilantro.
Well, that's why as soon as we can, Marla, we're going to implement smell-o-vision here on that channel.
I like smell-o-vision, and I still feel that I am overlit. I mean, the people out there don't know, but I am wearing orange cake makeup, heavy lipstick, and extreme rouge, and I still look like I'm totally washed out and blending into the brown book in the back.
And I don't even tell people what you smell like.
Well, I have to tell you, you don't know how lucky you are that I semi-bathed after the gym today.
I hope you were making salad at the same time.
Yeah, no, I was leaving that up to you. Just
Okay.
drinking my half a boost. That's all, thanks to you. And we have Francesca with us
Yes,
today.
we're joined here at the table by Francesca Rea from the Investors Group. Francesca.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
We're great.
Good.
He's better.
Excellent.
what?
He's better because he's eating
I'm
more
better now
greens.
because I'm not so worried about the radiation.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
And,
Yeah.
and
Neither
I'm
am
better
I.
because I don't have to hear about it all the time.
What did you think? Did that impress you, that last demonstration?
Makes me feel comfortable. You
Doesn't
hear
it?
too much on the radio, too much noise, and you just never know what is actually true.
Yeah. So we actually did it here, and I can tell you we can trust Frank.
All right. Well,
All right.
that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So what do you have to tell us today about investments or
Well,
consulting?
Sure. My main focus with clients is working with people who are between the ages of 40 and 55, and I've created something special called the Next 40. So it's really just taking a look at what do they need to think about, where do they need to go in the next 40 years.
It's funny you should say that because I had a name for this kind of program. It was called Freedom 95.
Is that when you're 95, you can be free to do
Finally,
things?
you can be free.
I'm
you know,
telling
at
you,
95.
I say, hope you've spent all your money by the time you're 95, and just like go to some,
Yeah, but you'd
go
never-
to Oregon and do
Actually-
an assisted suicide.
See, I was
thing.
going to say that's okay because you don't want to run out of money before you run out of time, right?
Right.
But you never
Exactly.
really know exactly when you're going to die, except I know this psychic electrician who can
Oh.
tell you the date you're going to die. So that
Fabulous.
could really be helpful for your financial planning.
Could be. But you were saying the oldest person is 114?
In Brazil.
In
but
Brazil.
She's one of the few that are, high functioning, I suppose.
But they say we're living longer, so
Yes, but
95 may not be
Are
unrealistic.
we living
for a lot of
independently?
us.
Are we
That's
living,
right.
or are we doing assisted living, or what's the quality?
Right.
Okay, so you want to focus on 40 to 55, and why that range?
Really, it just came to me one day, and a client called me and panicked, said, "Oh my God, I'm 40 today. I have not done a thing for my life, and retirement is 20, 25 years away. So we need to get on top of this." And I find that it's pretty typical of most people who turn 40, like myself this year. Now we need to start getting serious about putting something together in place to make sure that we're going to be okay in the future. And
Yeah.
really just motivates
It's
them
true
more.
because there are a lot of people that really, for whatever reason, they just haven't thought about it. And yeah, they're hitting 40 or, as you say, maybe up to 55. And they're going, oh, my goodness, what am I going to do now? Or what am I
Right.
going to do, when I do retire?
Right. Most people, when they're in their 20s, they're just graduating from university. They may be going back home, just finding their first job, maybe not even a permanent job. So cash flow is a bit tight. So really, if we started early, that'd be great. But most often, life doesn't lead us to that. And then when people get in their 30s, they're either finding a mate or buying a house or having children. And again, cash flow is really tight. So I find that people in their 40s, they've gone through those processes. Now they've got a bit of a better earning job. Kids are a little older. Now it's really time to think and get serious. And that's really when they're looking at it and getting serious.
So how do you get serious?
Just working with a financial advisor or someone just to sit down and go through basically where you're at. What is your cash flow? What are your expenses going to? What do you want to accomplish? What do you have already in assets? And just putting that written plan in place. And again, most people don't have a written plan. It's just, oh, okay, maybe it's $100 a month and we'll be okay. But is that really going to be enough?
Well, what kind of advice do you give people?
It's really based on their plan, right? So you may have a great expensive lifestyle, so you may require more money in your retirement than perhaps Hugh, who may have a very simple lifestyle and doesn't feel he needs to spend a lot in retirement. So it's really dependent upon their situation and what they want to accomplish. So each person is different in
Right,
terms
so you
of advice.
suit the needs of the individual person. And if they're a cautious person financially, you do not advise them to invest in something that's high risk.
Not at all. Not
Right,
at all.
because
Because
they
it's
have
going to
to
make
have a
them nervous.
That's right, and they won't sleep at night, and that's not a good quality of life.
Exactly. And it happened in 2008 with the market downturn. People who thought they were very aggressive, realistically they weren't. They couldn't handle the fact that the markets were going down and they lost as much as they had, but they recovered most of it the following year. So it's making people sleep at night.
However, mutual funds, I wouldn't say that was very recoverable. So do you think people in that age range of 40 to 55 should invest in RRSPs still if they have, let's say, a substantial amount of savings already?
It depends on their situation again. So, for example, if people are self-employed, RRSPs may or may not make sense for them from a tax perspective. So that's where it's an individual piece of advice. If people have a large income and they need to reduce taxes, that might be a good strategy for them. But
However, you will pay the taxes.
exactly.
Come now, come later, but you're going to
Exactly.
pay those taxes.
Right.
So
And there's lots of strategies that you can implement down the road as well to try and alleviate the tax burden when you start to take money out of an RRSP. So again, very specific to the individual.
Like, how can you alleviate the taxes?
So you, at this point in time, take money out of the RRSP, or you must take money out of the RRSP at age 71. You don't have to wait until you're 71.
Right.
You can look at it in advance and start earlier rather than later.
But once you take it out, you are going to pay tax on that amount.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So
But
where's the where's the tax limit? You're just saying you won't pay it all at the end, but you will
Right.
pay it.
yes. It just depends on your tax bracket and when you start taking that money out.
And so would it be best to take it out when you're making less money or no money? Because
Correct.
then your tax bracket is lower.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
And that's why people are encouraged to wait till then. And do you think it was good that they changed the age from, was it 65 to 71?
It was 69 to 71.
Okay, do you think that was good?
Not sure.
Yeah.
What's that, the retirement age?
Yeah,
to
to
take
take
money out of the
your
RRSP.
Oh, I
RRSP.
see, okay.
Because you're living longer, but some people need it sooner. So again, it's just an individual situation. What I really like is the tax-free savings account. So
Yeah, explain that. I know Ing started ING, and now everybody's
it's
offering.
actually a government program. It's not
Okay.
an ING program.
Okay.
So that's where some people are mistaken because they did great marketing.
Yeah,
but
great
it's actually a government program.
Now, is that 5,000 a year?
5,000 a year since 2009. So now you're eligible to put 15,000 into the tax-free savings account. So since that's been introduced, that's another option from an RRSP for a lot of people. So again, it's an individual situation or an individual decision to do one or the other or both.
And so each year you put in $5,000, and you don't pay tax on that.
On the growth, correct?
And it earns an interest rate.
Well, it can be anything. It can be a stock that you purchase. It can be a GIC. It can be a savings account. It can be a mutual fund. So it's really whatever investment you would see fit for that particular tax-free savings account.
So when they say tax-free savings, because when we think savings accounts, we think of bank account, right?
Correct.
But this is really just
An investment
an
account. So we
investment
usually
account.
like to call it a tax-free investment account, but the government came up with the
All
tax-free
right. Now,
savings account.
okay, if somebody came to you today, what would you recommend for them of those four options? What were they again? Savings account.
In terms of an investment,
In terms of the tax-free investment account?
depends on what they want to do with the money.
Right. So the options again were.
So it could be a savings, so a high interest savings account. And that I would suggest if people want a short-term savings, they're going to buy a car next year, they're going to go on vacation, that's a great option, right? Because they're not going to lose the money they put in. If it's something they want to use long-term, whether they're want to fund their retirement, put their kid through school and pay for their education, that's a number of years away. Maybe the mutual funds might be more appropriate. But some people like stocks or have stocks currently and can roll their stocks into the tax-free savings account. So any dividends or anything they earn on those stocks will grow tax-free, and they can take the income out tax-free as well. So again, it's just dependent upon
the
what
income
saying
from the
that-
dividends.
Sorry?
The income from the dividends
Yes.
on
so
a stock. If it was
yes.
a stock, what about capital gains on the stock?
There is no capital gains once it's in the tax-free savings account.
So they can have all the capital gains they want, and they
Pure
don't
and
have to
free,
pay tax on
tax-free.
it.
Yeah.
Now, are you saying these are forms of investments for tax free, or are you saying that the money that you earn from stocks you can then put into the tax free savings account?
No, you would open in a tax-free savings account and purchase stocks inside of that.
Inside of that.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's lots of misconceptions. Again, the noise, the marketing, the materials that are out there aren't really clear to the general population.
So no matter what you make in the stocks, you don't pay taxes on it?
Correct. If
Wow.
it's inside the tax-free savings
Even if you
account.
sell them for a huge windfall.
Wow.
Yes.
And you don't pay on the top and you don't pay behind. Well, you probably still have to pay if who's managing that, right? Or whatever the stock, I don't know. Wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
So, that's where a financial advisor or a personal financial advisor comes into place. Someone like myself will be able to help you walk through what's the best investment vehicle for you.
Because you guys are experts at knowing all those ins and outs and the government policies and
Correct.
the different options available and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Do you have experience being accounting or?
No, but tax planning is part of our repertoire, is part of our plan. So making sure that we're also looking at ways to save taxes for you. So is it the tax-free savings account, or is it an RRSP, or just a general savings plan? So, looking through your tax return is very important to us, or to myself, and making sure that we save more, because we're paying a lot in taxes these days.
Now, is it true that if we don't put in $5,000 per year since 2009, that if you start this year, and that's 3 years old now, can you put in 15,000?
Yes, you can. So it's an
Okay.
accumulation of
So
what
even
you
if
haven't
you've
done.
missed, folks out there, if
Really?
you haven't done this
Even if you missed?
Yes.
in all those years, in the last 3 years, you can now do it up to $5,000 per year from 2009.
That's right.
That's good to know. All you have to do is have the money.
You can be a millionaire, Marla, and never pay taxes.
Well, hopefully the government continues on with the program
don't
in the
think so.
future, and we continue to put 5,000 in every single year for quite some time, because that would be the ideal plan, is not to have to pay tax in the future, right?
We'd have to get out the calculator, figure out what 5,000 per year from my age now to 75. I don't know.
Okay, why don't you guys figure that out after the show?
Oh, absolutely after the show.
So how long have you been doing this, Francesca?
It'll be 7 years this year.
Yeah?
And it's flown by with one huge market downturn, so it's been an interesting.
Was that rough? Was that a rough
It
period
was
for
very,
you?
very rough for myself, in that I actually just had a child, and being self-employed, I didn't get the wonderful year mat leave. I went back to work 2 months after she was born, and October 1st was one of the first days where that downturn just continued to go. So it was difficult for, being a new mom and working with clients that were screaming on the other end of the phone, and, she's screaming in front of you. So yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah. Are things better now? Have things
Things
kind
have
of turned around?
recuperated. Yes, they have been slow and steady for the last couple of years, but
Yeah.
investments are really just one part of the picture. That is a big part when markets are on the downturn, but making sure people are putting enough away is really, I think, the key in having that goal or plan in place to follow.
But you also have to put things away if you're self-employed, and you
Yes.
have to make payments a couple times a year in installments.
Yes.
And also, people use credit cards. They should be prepared to pay it off every month.
Correct.
And not pay interest, because that's really thrown out money, folks. Just
Yes.
thrown out money.
Yes.
And
Credit cards, lines of credits, loans, they're just giving them away now. It seems
Oh
to be
boy, are
more
they
and more
ever.
frequent. So, cash management's another part of the plan too, is making sure you're balancing what's coming in and what's going out. And are there other strategies in place to help you alleviate the burden that it may be feeling towards yourself and your family? So we take a look at that as well. So is there ways of consolidating debt? Maybe renegotiating mortgage, especially right now, with rates being so low, people are looking at consolidating debt and renegotiating mortgages to help at least increase their cash flow.
so you look at everything. If somebody owns a house, if somebody
Yes.
is leasing a car,
Yes.
do you advise people, you shouldn't be leasing your car, you should buy it, or it's more advantageous for you to lease your car rather than buy it? Do you get
Well,
into that?
I just give my experience as of late, and owning a car is much better than leasing a car. I'm finding they're
Really?
really paying you a lot more on the end of the lease. And
they?
it didn't work out for me in both situations.
Oh, that's interesting to know, because my accountant has always told me buy, don't lease.
Yes.
And I know so many people go, Marla, why aren't you leasing? I lease. And no, I just listen to my accountant.
Yeah.
So
I have a
that's
client who
interesting.
leased, great payments for the 5 years, but now has to pay almost 20 grand on the end of it to buy out the lease. I mean, to me, that doesn't make any sense. Your car isn't worth $20,000
But what if
after
you just
5
keep,
years.
getting that new car, that new model every
Sure.
3 years?
But if you have to sell your current car, then who's
If
going to
you
buy
have
it?
to.
Right.
What if you don't have to and you just stay with the company and you just keep...
That'd be great, but some people don't usually buy the same brand or vehicle of car. So it just depends on the company and the.
So
and the
do you
lease.
help in those kind of decisions as well?
Depends. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just depends on the client and what they're looking for.
So tell us just briefly about Investors Group, like who, because there are a lot of different financial planning
Sure.
companies and stuff that people might be considering, but give us a little pitch why Investors Group are great people.
Well, I personally was a client before I became a consultant, and Investors Group has been around for over 80 years. We're one of the largest financial planning companies in Canada, and our main office is in Winnipeg. So we're out of the noise, we're out of the hubbub of downtown Bay Street, Toronto. But really, I think it's the advisor. So I'm trained by Investors Group, but I also have access to lots of information or experts at our head office. But really, I think clients are with me because they're with me, not because the company's great, but you have to find the right fit for an advisor too.
Right. And sometimes I know from personal experience, this is a bit of an issue. Because somebody could be a representative for Investors Group today, but then, and you're right, that relationship is really with the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they go on to another company, but all your investments are with Investors Group. Then what are you supposed to do?
Well, you would like to hope you got a great advisor that takes that role after, because that sometimes does happen. But it depends on the situation. You could go elsewhere if you wanted to, but in my opinion, it's always good to stay with one company, and hopefully you get a great advisor thereafter.
So what's the general sense in the financial industry about where things are going with the stock market, with the economy, with government policy, with everything?
Well, right now things have been pretty stabilized in the last few years, so that's a good news story. But market downturns happen all the time, so it's not going to be something that's not going to happen in the future. It will happen in the future, but I think really it's working with somebody closely, staying the course, continuing to invest. It's putting money aside is one part of the big picture. People talk about real estate being the best investment, but that's again one part of the picture. I mean, if you have all real estate and something happens to you, you're sick, you're not earning an income, how are you going to get money out of real estate? I mean, you have to
sell the property.
sell the property or remortgage, but that may or may not be a good situation either.
And if you make a profit, isn't a portion of that capital gains?
Exactly.
And you pay what
A tax
percentage?
on it.
Is it a hefty tax?
It's 50% of the capital gain is taxable.
Yeah,
and
I
then
would say
whatever your
that's a
tax
hefty
rate
tax.
is
Of course,
at that time.
if you're already 50%, then it's no different.
Yeah.
But people don't make as much of a profit when they sell the property. It's you can be, is it house poor?
And how quickly can you sell a property? If you need money today, are you able to sell that property tomorrow?
Exactly. And what's going to happen with the real estate market?
What's that, sorry?
What's going to happen? We don't know.
We don't
Nobody
know.
really
If
knows
I had
what's
a
going to
crystal
happen.
ball, I'd be
Yeah.
rich and...
That's
You
exactly
need to
right.
speak to a psychic electrician.
That's what I always ask financial advisors is, how rich are you? That's the first thing when they when they have an interview with me. So how rich are you?
Yeah.
Because I need to know how you invested your money. Because the interest rates have not improved. I remember last year everybody saying they're going to go up, so don't lock in for too long. Well, they didn't go up.
Right.
And I happened to be lucky enough to lock in something last year.
Way to go. But yeah, where do you think interest rates are going to go from
They're
here?
going up.
Up? Why?
sure.
Why do you
That's
say
what they
that?
all say, but they're not.
But
They
the
just
question
went
is
down.
when, right?
Yeah,
That's
but-
the question. So when, we don't know. The mortgage industry is saying by the end of the year, at least 0.5%.
Well,
that's
that's
what
not
the
much.
industry is saying.
That's not
They
much.
just went down 0.5%.
Yeah. So
I was
it's-
going to get something at 3.5,
because people are
and it just went
concerned
down.
if we go into a super, if interest rates really started to go up, we would see the real estate market just collapse.
Be
Right?
some situations, yes, where it might slow down, but also it's a balancing act. So depending on where the economy is going, the Canadian dollar, all that wonderful stuff, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
but really it's putting the plan in place. And that's, I think, the key. All those other things are just, to me, noise. It's short term. It's really just having a focus of where you want to go and how you're going to get there, and having somebody there to coach you along and to make sure you're following that path. All
right. And I think it's good news for people 40 to 55 that they can, it's not too late, they can get started.
Never too late.
Right?
It's never too
No,
late.
it's never too
Freedom
late.
95.
Never too late.
That's not that old anymore. Do you at all get into estate planning?
Very important, and I find
Very
that
good question, Marla.
another reason why people are looking for an advisor or advice at age 40, 55 is their aging parents. So now they're starting to deal with parents that perhaps are in a home or they've got sizable assets. They're now finding out what it's about and what do we do with it, or what would happen if something happens to them. So estate planning, not only for their family, but their parents as well. So it's very important. 50% of the Canadian population does not have a will. And that's the big piece for getting that ball rolling on estate planning.
Now, and what is the advantage? I mean, I'm asking you, I know part of the answer. What's the advantage of having a will in place? I just read an article on it, and I know a little bit.
Two
What's your
things,
opinion?
in my opinion. One is that your wishes are explained. And secondly, if you die without a will, the provincial government steps in and they do what they feel is necessary according to their laws. And one critical piece that I tell clients, again, in their 40s with kids, is the government steps in and they decide who's going to look after your children. You don't. And also, they will give your estate to the 18-year-old. At age 18, they get the entire estate. So if your estate is worth $1 or $2 million, they can write the check to that 18-year-old and away you go.
Now, does not the spouse get it?
If there is no spouse. Correct.
If
Most
there's
often
no
it rolls
spouse,
over
right.
to spouse, but
My
there are
understanding
some other
was if
laws.
there's no will, it goes to the spouse.
And some portion of it can also go to the children.
Right, and a portion of it goes to the children. But you're saying if there is no spouse, then let's say it's a single parent, all the money, if there is, goes to the child once they turn 18.
Correct.
The entire amount. And if
Correct.
they mismanage it, they do. And that's that.
Party time.
Whereas the will, you can state, when you want that child to receive the estate. So the will is really key to how you want everything to happen if you're not here.
Right.
See, I think the state should raise all children anyway. I mean,
Fabulous.
just
and also,
joking.
if a spouse is around, though, what if they get remarried? Then what do you do? Does the child get any of that? So there's lots of other
Well-
questions.
definitely have to put in place once my spouse
So you
gets
can
married.
help people with that too?
Definitely. I don't write wills for them, but I
Right.
help them walk through the process, find them a lawyer,
Fantastic.
review it for them if they currently have a will, making sure that everything is seamless and it's going to be executed according to their wishes.
Okay. Well, listen, Francesca, great to meet you. Great to have this conversation. So who should get in touch with
Yeah.
you?
Anyone who's between 40 and 55 looking for an advisor who wants to be compassionate towards them, understand them, set up a written financial plan, and get that ball rolling for what they want to accomplish in
Do you
life.
have contact information? Do we have any local contact information for Francesca on the screen?
Well, Francesca can tell us where people can get in
yeah,
touch
but
with her
it's
right
nice
now.
to see it visually.
They can either call me at the office, 416-491-7400, extension 507, or email is always great as well. It's Francesca, if they can spell it, FRANCESCA.REA @investorsgroup.com. See how you misspelled my name there.
How is it spelled?
There you go. Perfect.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And do you deal with people all over the GTA or specific areas or?
Prefer GTA, but I do travel outside, yes.
Okay, great.
And would you take somebody who's 39 or 56?
I would. I don't exclude.
Right.
I don't exclude.
All right, so you'll take everybody, but for those in that age range.
I prefer that they're motivated if they're outside of that age range,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
But 40, 55 is where most people tend to have a greater need to get some planning underway.
Right.
Okay, great.
Good.
Thanks, Francesca.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a break and come back with Blaine Nichols right after this, ThatChannel.com.
Don't you notice my heart? It's beating for